How are you going? Everybody, tongue-tied right from the beginning. How's everybody doing today? It's Wendy Harrington with Beacon Creative Lab, and I am coming to you live to talk about authority and your business in Tuesday's Teatime Talks. So today I'm actually going to go over long-form content, or just in general, written content, video content, all the good stuff that helps you build your authority. I actually ran through this yesterday for a couple of you who might have seen it, but something happened with the video and it was all fuzzy, and so I figured I would run through that again so that it's a little bit easier to take in. So I've got my chamomile tea next to me. It's a little bit hot, so I probably won't do much sipping today, but hopefully you've been having a good start to your week and you are able and ready to focus in on this whenever you're listening to it. So we're going to start off with really why. Like, why are we having this conversation about content and how it can build authority? And I think of this as sort of 3 V's and then a little boost. So the first reason for focusing in on the content that you put out is visibility. And, obviously, if people see your content, then they start to connect with you and they know who you are. So having content that you put out there that, that connects with people is the first one. You need more visibility if people are going to know who you are and start to connect with you. So this kind of goes with the old awareness, if in old advertising terms, or even today's advertising terms. You need to be visible if you want to be able to make more sales. The second piece is value. So just putting content out there because it's content isn't necessarily going to create the impact that you want. You want to create something that's valuable. So, one of the first ways that I often work with people on it is to make a list of the top questions that their customers ask. And sometimes it's the top questions that your customers should ask, because you know more about the work that you do than somebody else does, and so often they don't know what questions to ask, and you can really help them to learn, and in the process elevate your authority because you're coming to them as an expert. The second piece is vision. When you're sharing your content, part of what comes through is the vision you have for your business, for their experience, and for the shared experience that you have when you work together. So for people to really understand what sets you apart, they need to be able to see a little bit deeper than just whatever you might put in an ad. And the content that you put out can be an excellent way of making that happen. So the fourth piece is the whiz bang. That's the juice. And the juice comes from both the personality that you put out, the branding, which we'll talk about more in a couple of days on this series, but also literally the juice that you get through the social platforms wanting to share your information, through the search engines wanting to, or identifying that you have some authority in your post or your web pages and wanting to share that. So that juice is really going to be what helps redouble your efforts. And so good content is a great way to get some of that extra juice. So now that we know a little bit about why, and if you're listening to this on replay, feel free to put any comments into the post. I am monitoring those and I'll answer them. Or you can just hit me up on my Facebook page, Instagram page, website, any of those, and we can have a free 30-minute chat if that's what you like. Or we can even go longer. Anyway, so the next question is, what is it? What is this content that I'm talking about? So it tends to be 2 kind of categories. There's short form and there's long form. The short form, if you have to kind of roll it up, think of it as something that's running probably somewhere under 1,200 words. So you might think of a kind of a shorter blog post, an article that you post on LinkedIn is an excellent place to put your content, particularly if it's business to business, but not only for that. You could also do blogs on somebody else's site, or contribute articles on someone else's site. If you have a newsworthy thing, you could put out a press release. You could also see if you can contribute an article to a local publication. Another thing that falls under that sort of short form category, if you have data to share, would be an infographic Or maybe there's a way that you can turn information that you're sharing into some kind of visual, whether it's numbers, data, or not. Sometimes there are other ways to share it, and that is considered short form. Can be very valuable, very punchy, very quick takeaway. Checklists kind of fall into this too. If there's something that you can help guide people with, a checklist is a nice short form. And tip sheets and even some videos like this one would be considered short form. If you get into the long form, that is, when you hear people talk about that, it's more things like ebooks or even full-length books. White papers would certainly count as this, or full-blown guides. So if you've ever been to a web page and it says the ultimate guide to whatever, that is a guide. Sometimes you call that a pillar page. And that's a little bit more detailed, but think of it as a really long page, like 3,000 words, sometimes even more, that breaks up a topic into multiple sections. And sometimes those sections can then be drilled down further with pages that link from the pillar page and get into specific drill downs. So, it's almost like the spoke of a wheel. You've got a hub in the middle, and then you've got all these pages all the way around. And that's very effective often for SEO, for search engine optimization, but it's also very handy for people who are just searching. Once you become that level of information authority, you'll see this often with media publications, or tech companies will often have these types of long-form content. Webinars also count as this, or courses that are posted. And let's see what else. Those are really the main ones, I guess. And so, any of those obviously require time to put together, some more than others. And a lot of times people worry because they're not writers or they're not designers in the case of an infographic, and they don't know how to get started. Their information is all in their head, and it comes out beautifully when they're working with a client one-on-one, or presenting to a team. But it gets to be very difficult to think, how am I going to take what I know and put it into another form that multiple people can know? And this is where folks who have worked with writers in the past will maybe have a little bit of an experience and can pipe up in the comments. But generally speaking, what happens is writers over time, they become skilled at being able to kind of extract information from somebody's head. So if you're working with a writer, whether it's for your website content, for creating a website, doing blogs, writing a book, any of those things, it's a matter of the copywriter or the content writer being able to ask you the right questions to figure out what your unique skill set is, what your discipline is, and capture all of those important points, often just by having a conversation with you. And then taking that, maybe adding some more research to it if it's necessary, if that's appropriate or necessary, and then delivering it in a format that other people are going to be interested to read. And obviously there's some back and forth with you as you would read it, but that's generally how it works. So yes, it's your ideas. It ends up, if the writer's good, at even sounding like it's you. The best writing is a little bit conversational. So that's really the gift of being able to work with a writer. They're going to be able to take your ideas and not just make better use of your time, but then be able to let that become evergreen, so that content continues to be out there impacting people and connecting you to them. So, just an example of how that might work. Got a woman who is just a great person, a great representative of coaching and financial coaching in the Raleigh area. Her name is Sylvia Inks. And back in, I think, 2016, she wrote a book on finance guidance for the busy entrepreneur. I'll drop the link in the comments. But this is still a terrific guide that covers all the important information that new entrepreneurs need to know. And very often people who've come in from a leadership position, or really talented at what they do, but they don't necessarily know how to run their business from a finance standpoint. It's quite different to be, even if you've run multi-million-dollar programs for a corporation is very different when you're running your own business. There are different factors, different policies, different tax situations, and all kinds of other things. So she has this great book. She also has a great course. I'll see if I can link to that too in the comments. But what that did was help her become more of an expert, help people understand what her knowledge range is, see that as a stepping stone, start to get familiar with the, kind of how it might be to work with her. She also then went on to do, public speaking and then her course. And all of this helps raise her authority level and then give her an opportunity to essentially, up the ante a little bit. So people can get some information at a very low cost. They can also then move closer to her through the speaking engagements they attend. Then they can go through to courses. And then, if, at the higher end, they may choose to work with her one-on-one. So it's this is an example of one way that can come together. And so, here there are lots of other ways that core content and both long and short form can help you grow your authority. But really the things to remember, if you want to grow your visibility, if you want people to know about your vision, if you want to make sure that they really understand the value you have, and you want to get more juice through your marketing and through search engine optimization and all the other, kind of buzzwords and guidelines that you need to know for marketing, content is a really core piece to have in your strategy. If there's brainstorming that you want to do on that, questions, make sure you drop it in the chat or the comments area. Or just give me a shout, and I'm happy to talk through maybe what a strategy might look like for you and the best way for you to make it happen in the amount of time that you have or don't. Again, it's Wendy Harrington from Beacon Creative Lab, and hope to get to meet you networking or online sometime soon. Take care, guys.